What did your roommate say that made your jaw drop? This was many years ago, when I was living in Los Angeles. I worked for an answering service. This was back in the days before answering machines, and my soon-to-be roommate, Marion, worked for the same service. But I worked day shift and she worked night shift. I was looking for a place to move to, as my current situation was less than desirable. She was having trouble making ends meet, and said she wanted to take on a roommate to share expenses. She had a nice little apartment in a cozy little complex in Santa Monica, and it seemed like it would be a good deal for both of us. The other people I worked with warned me about her, saying she was really weird and crazy, and that I shouldn't move in with her. I got a weird feeling about her. I'd never had any problems with her, and I can generally get along with anybody, so I thought they were just being alarmist. She said she'd gotten permission from her landlord to have a roommate, so it was all on the up and up. Her apartment had only one bedroom, but it had 2 twin beds, so I accepted that. I didn't have much in the way of furniture or anything anyway, so it worked out for me. I paid my rent to her on time, and paid my share of the utilities and phone bill. I cleaned up after myself. I didn't bring any friends over. I wasn't loud or messy or anything. I tried to be considerate of her sleep schedule and other things. But then suddenly, out of the blue, after living with her for approximately 4 weeks, she decided I had to go. It was like she had suddenly developed some kind of paranoia about me. She told me that it was her landlady that had suddenly decided that I couldn't live there anymore, but that didn't make sense to me, as she told me she'd gotten permission to have me there. I felt like she was just telling me that as an excuse to get rid of me. I didn't know why she had this sudden change of attitude toward me. She told me she took some of her more valuable possessions and stored them at her boyfriend's place, for fear that I might steal them from her. I was stunned. I don't know how she suddenly decided, based upon zero evidence, that I was a thief. She insisted that I look for another place to live, and be out by the end of the month. I got a paper to look for rental listings, but when I went to call about one of the places, I discovered that the phone was dead. I asked her what was going on, and she said she canceled her phone service for fear that I was going to make a bunch of long-distance calls and leave her stuck with the bill. What the? I pointed out that if she wanted me to find another place to live, that I was going to have to use the phone to call about rental listings. She said I would just have to find a payphone to use. That was a nightmare. It was February, and it got dark early. By the time I got off work and was able to go get a paper and look for available rentals, it was dark out, and I didn't feel very safe, or comfortable, going out at night to find a payphone. Much less go and look for a new rental situation. Also, it cost me money. I didn't have to keep making calls, since I was frequently told that the place I was calling about was already rented. And, since she disconnected her phone service, I had no phone that anyone could call me back on. Finally I was able to connect with another roommate situation in another part of town. Marion was eager to get me out, and said she'd help me move my stuff into the new place. I filled up my car with stuff, and she put the rest of my stuff in her little car. I had a small wardrobe chest that had to be tied to the top of my car, and she helped me with that. My new place was an upstairs apartment, and I asked if she would help me to get the chest off the top of my car, and carry it up the stairs to my new place. She assured me she would. So we drove over to my new place, and she unloaded my stuff from her car, and set it down on the grass. Just as I was about to ask her to help me untie the chest from the top of my car, I heard her car door slam, and she quickly pulled away, like she just couldn't wait to ditch me. My new roommate wasn't home yet, so I was stuck there dealing with the chest and my other belongings by myself. Bearing in mind I was a 23-year-old, 120-pound woman in the middle of LA as it was getting dark, it was less than ideal. It was terrifying, actually, but luckily nothing bad happened and my new roommate arrived and helped me with my stuff. I should have listened to my coworkers and that weird feeling I got at the start. Marion was the weirdest and worst roommate I've ever had. On top of how she kicked me out abruptly, there were many smaller things during my stay that make sense now. My TV remote would constantly go missing, and then end up back where I left it hours later. My food in the fridge would disappear, and she'd always make up some BS excuse for eating it. Just a small selection of many random, slightly irritating events. But it had a happy ending. My new roommate, Pat, was really great, and turned out to be a friend for many years to come, even after we'd both left Los Angeles and gone on to other things. I guess the takeaway from my story is, always trust your gut and, for the most part, people around you.